Evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we have Black Youth Mentorship Spotlight. We have a couple of guests from Toronto. We have Ahmed Abdi, Carpenter Apprentice with Carpenters Local 27. We have Sarah Gonza, community organizer with the Toronto Community Benefits Network, and we have Carl Andrews, local Hamilton Community Benefits Manager. And so today we're going to be talking about working in the trades and how that relates to large infrastructure projects such as different LRT projects being built across the province, whether it's Toronto, Hamilton, Kitchener, and other places, and what that impact has on racialized folks, black folks, the working force, and also the always underlining evil of systemic racism as people navigate some of these projects. So we've been having these black youth mentorship spotlight since the pandemic as a way to connect people virtually and to ensure that black youth and young black leaders in Hamilton have access to information that they need to advance them through their career, through their life. And so this is the March edition for our mentor spotlight, and we're glad to have Ahmed and Sarah join us. So I'm going to pass it over now to Carl, who is also going to talk about what it means as we expect an LRT project here downtown Hamilton. The Hamilton LRT is going to traverse black businesses, high schools, and neighborhoods and various communities. So it's important to talk about the role of trades, and so I'll hand it over to Carl.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Kojo, and I thank you so much, Ahmad and Sarah, for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your lives to talk to the folks in Hamilton about community benefits and your experience specifically through the Toronto Community Benefits Network and the Eglinton Crosstown and Finch West LRT project. Hamilton is building 14 kilometers of light rail, another Metrolinx project similar to the ones that you guys have experienced in the city of Toronto, and we were hoping to build on kind of the gains of the Toronto Community Benefits Network in terms of applying community benefits agreements, open up spaces for entry into the trades, especially for racialized folks in the city of Hamilton. So maybe, Sarah, could you just tell me a little bit about the gains that TCBN got and kind of just set the stage for us about what Hamilton should be looking to ask from our project? I guess my question was poorly timed, Sarah, with your internet cutting out at exactly the moment I asked you a question. That's a little bit of a kind of frustration of these online platforms and not doing things in person. So we'll just give Sarah a second to get reconnected. All right. Well, while I wait for Sarah to get reconnected, it looks like her internet's dropped off. Sarah, you there?
Thank you. Actually,
It seems, Sarah, we're having some issues. We are having some issues
Hello.
hearing you.
How?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? I can.
And oh,
Almost. Or well, let me flip that around, Ahmed, and I just ask you to begin with to set the table
So
for us here and
I'll guide
understand. Oh, there you go.
talk about TCBN and the different projects.
Maybe we should double back to Sarah.
Okay. The
so while Sarah is trying to figure
Can you
out
hear?
internet,
Okay. My internet.
okay, Sarah, can you try turning off your video? Let's see if you turn off your video, maybe we'll be able to hear your audio, but we won't be able to see you. Does that work? Okay, so while Sarah is sorting things out, let's pass it over to Ahmed. Carl, you wanna?
Yeah. So, as I'm sure that some of our viewers may be aware, the entry into the unionized construction trades is an area of high demand and growth right now, with the government's projecting to need a whole lot more skilled trades folks. But obviously, you just can't walk onto a job site and pick up a hammer. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the journey about how you got through the community benefits from what you were doing before into the trades and working with the carpenters?
Well, I would be lying to you all if I said the journey is easy, especially for people with our skin color or our background or marginalized communities and all. It was pretty hard to get into the union. I couldn't do it on my own. I've been trying 3 years before I got into the union. To actually get into the union, I would go there and get the normal runarounds, fill out this application. And there was people that I knew that got in right away because they had family already
Are
in the
you able
union
to
and
hear
all.
me because I've turned off the camera now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry about these technical challenges.
And Matt will let us know when we're back in office.
Let me just about the different projects we've had at our Community Benefits Network. We've had the Eagle Trail, and in this we've had economic opportunities given to a number of apprentices, including 202 placements with the professional administrative technical placements. We've had about 222. And then looking at the social procurement, dealing with the Eglinton area, we've had about 8 million. We have also the Finch West. Hello?
Yes, Sarah, we can hear you, but you're still breaking up. So maybe try signing off and signing back in again. Um, and then we'll see if it works.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm being heard, but
Try. Okay, so uh, Ahmed, you want to finish with your thoughts? And I see we just had Chris Campbell, Vice President of Carpenters Local 27, join us. So we'll let Ahmed finish his thought about Black and racialized folks entering the workforce through the union, and then Carl will pass it over to Chris for some questions.
As I was saying, it was a bit hard to actually get your foot in there, but once you get your foot in there and you get support from older gentlemen that have been in your position before you, then things get a little easier. But the main issue is access, and nobody's going to give you access to anything if you're not there at the beginning of the planning of what's going on in your community. So like with these big infrastructure projects, it's really important to get concrete community benefit points from the consortiums that are building these constructions, because it makes no sense for you to have such a great infrastructure in your neighborhood and not benefit about it from it, and the youth are jobless and all of that. So to get to get to get to a position where you can actually have a seat at the table, where you need to organize yourselves and you need to have great community advocates, and once you get these consortiums to listen, you need them to have concrete things that you can follow up on and you can check on and you can police in a way that they're actually meeting these targets that they set, and it's not just word of mouth. So my journey has been at the beginning it was hard, but I was lucky enough to connect out of all people Chris Campbell here at the beginning of my journey until now. So there is support out there. There's people that look like us. There's people that know the industry very well, been in the industry for a long time. And once you're open to taking advice and doing your job and showing up for the job in the morning, being ready to work, you'll get through. But we need to be at the table to actually get into these jobs. So that's why these agreements, like community benefits agreements with teeth, is very important.
So, Chris, you got a nice setup to join the conversation here by talking about the importance of why we're here, which is that mentorship piece. I know that you entered the construction trades quite a number of years ago, and you're well into your career. So, in some ways, you kind of opened the door for folks like Ahmed. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about your experiences, challenges, hopes as Hamilton starts looking at those positions with our local building trade affiliates here.
Did you say Chris or?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So yes, thank you for having me. I'm Chris Campbell. I started my apprenticeship 32 years ago. Time flies. 32 years ago as a first year apprentice, just like Ahmed. Did pre-apprenticeship course, went back, did your basic, intermediate, and advanced at Local 27 when they were at a smaller location in Signet Drive. Yes, there were challenges, and I'll get back to that in a second. Went on to work as a journey person, Red Seal Carpenter, for many years. You build that relationship, you network. It helps if you're a little bit of outgoing. You talk to people, you build that camaraderie, and after a while, folks started appointing me the lead hand, the foreman, the supervisor on a few sites, and then it tend to follow you. And one of the things I sometimes explain in my scenario was, it wasn't the fact that you may be the hardest worker or you may be the smartest person on site, but sometimes in our industry you're appointed because the company owner or senior people feel comfortable with you. So it's not necessarily that you're the smartest, or you can carry 2 sheets or 3 sheets of plywood and the other person only carry 1. So that's a big factor too. You have to build that assurance sometimes, right? Sometimes life isn't fair, but I find that was one of the skill that you need to for them to know that you're gonna get this project done, you're gonna be on time, on the budget, and you're able to resolve issues that may come up, and that takes time to get to that comfort zone in yourself. Even when I became an instructor, I had no previous teaching experience, but I learned most of it. Learned that folks learned their trade differently, and you just adapt after a few classes and learn different skills of how to explain things to people. Yeah, it was one of the foremen, one of the partners that I work with outside. When he became an instructor, he reached for me outside in the field. So that I did 2.5 years of that approximately. Now and then after I would go back, they asked me to do maybe an intermediate or maybe safety courses. But after that I did 17 years as a union rep and area rep all over Toronto, solving labor relations issues on site, um, with the team that negotiates the provincial collective agreement. What else? Membership issue, learning to again improve your communication skills, and again, a lot of it is not just to recite what's in the book, but you need to be able to communicate with folks who probably speak another language. Read people body language, look into their eyes when you're talking to them, and be genuinely interested and caring about what's happening. Those are some of the skills that I pick up along the way as a rep. I did a lot of community work because the rep work became easy. I didn't have to put as much effort into doing it after 17 years. I just knew what to do. So then I could focus a lot of my time on my family and doing a lot of community outreach. I tend to knew a lot of the community organizations over the years. And for about a year and a half, the EST, the person who's in charge of my union provincially, asked me to take on the task of being the equity diversity representative of the province. And last December, I was appointed the vice president of Local 27, the Carpenters Union. So that's in a few minutes. That's my journey along the way. Now, what is my job today as the equity? I go around promoting the union. When needed, as necessary, help or assist to resolve issues of racism, discrimination, and so on around the province of Ontario. And as needed, communicate. I'm the main person that deals with stuff in the media in regards to equity and diversity and racism, and other community outreach. Yeah, basically that's what I do for the union, and other member issues that comes up. So Ahmed was one of the young person that I assist to get in the union, and he has a peculiar story where community benefit was starting up. I was always in the room at the table with community benefits since its inception, but I wasn't in a lead role at that point. So at some point, when they were just starting up and recruiting, we went from one area, one corner of Toronto to the other, talking about opportunities for youth and recruiting and so on. But I guess they didn't explain that, yes, we're recruiting you. There may be hundreds of jobs available for the youth, but guess what? The project comes in stages. For instance, you're building a subway. You're not going to need 1,000 people the first day. The first day you need machines and a few people to operate the machines, to remove the soil, to drive the trucks and the bulldozers to get the soil out of there. So you don't need as much hands-on labor, because everything is all huge, gigantic machines boring the tunnels under the ground and conveyor belt taking the soil as it goes, right? Then you need, maybe after that, and that take years. After that, guess what? You need the carpenters, you need the laborers, you need some electricians, depends on what stages. You need not as much plumbing at that point. So I knew that, and I knew, and my team knew, well, folks who are in construction knew that um, the work wouldn't ready for us. The stage that we're going to get apprentices for the neighborhood wouldn't be ready as yet. That would take another year or two or three, depending on what trade you're into. So what we did was when I met Ahmed, he says him and a couple of his friends said they want to join the Carpenters Union. I'm just at a community organization talking about the trade and telling them about the project. And he came up to me and he says, I want to join. And he says, are you sure? He says, yeah, I know you can help me. So says, I just, kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, is he serious? I said, okay, meet me at the hall on Monday morning. Well, guess what? He showed up on Monday morning. And so we signed him up. We signed him up knowing that you can't, or it's not possible to work on the subway at the time. So guess what? We integrate him into the current apprenticeship system we had then, where we signed him up, got him some safety course or whatever he needs, and we sent him out to work on projects for like a year or two, where he, learned or got some skill. So by the time the subway was ready, he was one of the first people that came through the original Toronto Community Benefits recruiting that got a job on the subway, right? So that's kind of a model, maybe Carl, you can think about where it's important, I think, because in Toronto, 90% or 95% of the infrastructure projects in the city, not outside, in the city of Toronto are unionized labor. So it makes sense to recruit them in the union ahead of time, right? Integrate them so you'll have a pool of workers to choose from, especially for that represent the people that you want to be on the project. Here we strive for 10% or more, right? But in Hamilton, you have to go by what you all agree on over there. So you get them, you integrate them in. They're all over the place, and you know what? The companies, from a carpenter point of view, the companies that got the job, right, when they needed people, some of them didn't even have to go back to the hiring hall and say, okay, send me 5 people. They already have these guys on staff. So all they had to do is just transfer them over to the project, and they'll just hit the ground running. There's no special training, no requirements that's needed. You already had them working for a year and a half, 2 years. So that's one of the secret that's out of the bag. So get them, recruit them if you're sure and the project is gonna be on the way. Recruit them ahead of time. Have a list of people. Communicate, with them, do a have some kind of mentorship program where you keep in touch with them. I know the union does, because they're coming through the union, but you as Hamilton Community Benefit have that list of people. Call them up once in a while. How you doing? Are you okay? You're finding work. If not, you as the main person over there in Hamilton, you have a relationship with Matt Query or Beaver Stock of the local 18. You can keep in touch and pass the information on. Say, Johnny's been out of work for a little bit. Is there anything that you can do to possibly get him back on his feet going? That's part of the mentorship process that I would encourage you to do. You're gonna have difficulty on the job, no doubt about it.
Just to ask you, just specifically for the youth that are tuning in, not everybody might be familiar with how construction trades, especially unionized construction training, goes. So just from a nuts and bolts, can you kind of, between you and Ahmed, kind of explain to any young viewers right now, like how you go through? Obviously, all unionized trades have their own training centers through their own locals. Through the affiliates. So how does that process once you're a high school graduate and say you want to become either an operating engineer or a carpenter or an electrician? What's that step that gets you to the community benefits readiness that gets you into the union training centers?
Ahmed, tell me about your journey so far.
Well, there's a couple of courses you have to work on construction. It's like it's just a law. You gotta have certain safety courses and a little bit of knowledge, background knowledge, in order to be. at the first 1800 hours, until you can either take your first term at the beginning or you get 1800 hours. Most people wait, and that's when you take it. The first part is going to teach you about design, drawings, and how to use most of the hand tools. So that's the first time you take the first 3 months of course, and then you work. Now keep in mind, every day on the site you're learning something new. You're learning how to do everything. So by the time you get to class, you already know how to do the things. Now you're getting the theory of it, plus some practicals. So the courses always break down into theory and practical. So that's why it's good to already be on site by the time you go to class, so you have some knowledge of what you're doing and what you're learning about. And then after that, when you get certain amount of hours again, then you take which you learn more about the carpentry and how it's done and the laws of what the and get more depth into the course. By the time you get into intermediate, you would think it's hard, but since you're on site for the 2 years, you already pretty much know everything that they're going to teach you. Now you're getting the how to reference it to the code, how to look up things, and more depth into carpentry basically. And then you go back to work again. And then when you work a number of months, you come back to you advance. Once you finish your advance, you have enough hours to most of the time to write or challenge your red seal. So you learn a little bit about your red seal and you take it. I know there's a lot of tests and a lot of different parts you have to go through, but what makes things so easy is when you're working, you're learning all this on site. So when you get into the classroom, it's not something alien or something new to you. So you already have the practical skills, just putting two things together, and it doesn't take much time. And most of the instructors, all of them actually, they're once the onus is on you basically to understand. You have unlimited questions you can ask your teacher until you understand what you're learning about. So basically that's the journey. So the beginning is just you must have those courses that the government mandate that to be on construction site, and then it breaks down into that.
Nice. I guess my last Trade Talk magazine, I don't know if you can see, last Trade Talk magazine that we issued, on page 9 I spoke about the basic requirements, because sometimes even in my trade, all trades, it's possible that it may be different, the requirements to get in, but because I'm a provincial person, from traveling around the province, you realize that sometimes they're misunderstanding or misinformation about how to get in the Carpenters Union, what's required. So I wrote it down on page 9 here. So, and I think it's also on the website, so you can easily look it up and tell, your neighbor, your friends, your sons, your daughter, your uncle, your auntie, everyone. So let me go over the 10 basic stuff. You should be a minimum of 16 years of age. You need a valid social insurance number or work permit, as per the government of Canada. You need a photo ID, like a driver's license, passport, etc. Not necessarily a Canadian passport, because you may be coming from somewhere else. So that's a couple right there. You need a mailing address, your mailing address, phone number, possibly email. Why? Because you're gonna be receiving communications from the Carpenters Union, and if you come in as a registered apprentice, you're gonna even receive correspondence from the government. Number 6, you must be capable of performing the duties of a carpenter apprentice, right? So you must physically, it helps if you can perform. I won't get into what you need to do on the job site at this time, but you need to be able to physically do the job. You will be required with us to sign a contract of apprenticeship. There are scenarios where you're exempt from it, but we encourage everyone when you're coming in, especially if you're coming as a OEAP student or a high school student, 18 years of age, yes, sign a contract, have apprenticeship so you can get all the benefits from the government of being an apprentice. What else? You must meet all the COVID-19 requirements. We've lifted the ban now, so that may become a little redundant later. But a year ago, we were going all the way with COVID. And lastly, you must, or it helps if you have transportation, because not all the projects that you're working on is going to be in your backyard, right? Especially like if you're Hamilton, for instance, you may be in Hamilton and you may be coming from Niagara to work, right? How you going to get there? You can't take the normal city bus. It helps if you have a car, right? So those are some of the basic things. Now you have this. You approach one of the union office, or you approach my office, for instance. We would do a quick interview, maybe on a Tuesday. We do a quick interview, ask you a couple information, fill out the form. Like I said earlier, ask you to sign the contract of apprenticeship, give you a temporary union card, ask you to go and register for your working at heights, women's confined space. As per the government of Ontario, you need that to work on any construction site. After that, if they have those basic requirements, then you may be encouraged to go straight and register for some apprenticeship course or specialty course, formal course, scaffolding course, etc. Or they may make a decision like, okay, since you probably had some exposure or some experience, etc. already, they may encourage you, okay, to just go on the list and go out to work. So it all depends on what they decide when they interview to a point. So that really covers the basic requirements to get into it. Be honest with yourself, I would say. Just like in colleges or high school, not college, in colleges or university or any other trade school, initially you have a lot of people going in, but some people change their mind. They realize I am not gonna be getting up 5 o'clock and heading out 6 o'clock and being on the job 7 o'clock and come home as tired as ever. Some people, after a couple weeks, a couple months, they say this is not for me. Some people, they climb or go up the stairs 20, 30 stories, and after a while they go, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is not for me. You work outside in the freezing cold or in the blazing sun. Some people decide it's not for me, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and says, it's a better rose and everything is gonna be fine. No, but the money is good if you're passionate and you want to want to be part of all these projects that's happening right in your backyard, right in your neighborhood. And working with a team, and it gives you a sense of belonging to be a part of the union, an organization that caring. If this is something that you want, you're good with your hands and also your brain, because people think that being a carpenter or a plumber, electrician, it's a walk in the park. No, for you to put that building up, you must have some sense of academics behind you too. Not, we don't need all rocket scientists there, but it's depending on your academic ability or your passion to climb and I mean climb as in working hard and going back to classes and go up the ladder of management. It depends on your passion. But keep in mind, on these projects too, you may be the carpenter and make more than the architects and the engineer that's involved in the project, right? Because it's a unionized environment. So it's some of it is a myth that the the administrative side of things make more money than the person with the tool belt and a hard hat. No, a carpenter makes about, what's it, 44, 43, 44, and by the end of April it's going to be a lot more. 43, 44 plus benefits come up to maybe about 65 or more an hour. And on weekends it's double time, holidays it's double time, after 8 hours it's time and a half, in with 3 hours on that it becomes double time. So more often than not, the tradesperson will make more than an engineer that just finishes his 4 years in university. So these are some of the things that you should keep in mind, but it's a lot of hard work and sweat and a sense of achievement. So hopefully, I don't want to keep going, but hopefully this helped for a little bit until some more questions coming.
So there was a question that came into the chat that's actually very topical on this, and just a question around the costs and the coverage of those costs. I know, as I mentioned before, every union local has their own training center, and percentages of your dues that you pay for your union go towards that training center to help bring up the next round of apprenticeships. But can you talk a little bit about that training and any costs that may not have been covered or challenges that were financial in that nature, Ahmed, when you were entered into the Carpenters Union?
Well, I had it wasn't at the beginning of the union, when they were registering the registration with the union and everything, was around 200 something with everything combined. So I didn't per se have an issue with that at that moment. I would understand people are different, people can afford it and some people can afford it, but there's always help with the community and community services, and there's different resources you can apply or talk to people about to get into things like that. And once you start working, the union dues, you don't really feel it because it's just $20-something a month. You're making so much money, you're not going to feel it, and with all the rights that come with it, you want it. So once you start working, the fees are not going to be a problem, and your benefits come from your paycheck as you go, and there's such a wonderful benefits, you're not going to have an issue with it, you're not even going to feel it. So once you get on the ground running, you're not really going to feel those fees while you're working. And at the beginning, it did not cost an arm and a leg to get into the Carpenters Union.
Well, thank you for that. Being mindful that we're running out of time for this sessions, we talked a lot about some of the introductory steps that are required. Obviously, organizations like Metrolinx and their contractors and subcontractors have to make those positions available through the project, like the Hamilton LRT, like in TCBN, with that 10% aspirational target that you guys did a great job of exceeding. Chris, I was wondering if you could just talk a bit some of the challenges that you had to troubleshoot that were in the media around the construction sites. I know there were some incidents on the Eglinton Crosstown site, especially, that were quite brutal. How did you manage to navigate that, and just so that folks are aware that some of these challenges exist?
Okay, challenges in terms of the contractors taking on apprentices, or challenges in terms of
challenges on the job site with other workers, systemic racism, and then the other flip side is, of course, the contractors, the challenges from an organizational standpoint in holding Metrolinx to those two very different issues.
Okay, so Metrolinx is the parent organization from the government, provincial government, and you have the Eglinton Crosslinks project, and so the parent company of Eglinton, the Metrolinx. Now, on the projects, Metrolinx would be Crosslinks would be the general contractor, and the general contractor would hire the operating engineers, the folks that does the excavating and the excavating and the crane and the operating of every machinery. Then you have the carpenters. You have the carpenters building the station itself, going right down to the tunnel that's already existing from the laborers union or the operating engineers. And then you have, while the carpenters are building the farm 3, 4, 5 stories down, you have the electrician there running their conduits, and in some cases you have the plumbers also there. So you have a couple trades there doing their things, and as it comes up little by little, you have the mechanical folks doing the elevators and putting in the infrastructure to eventually have that in place. So there's several trades at a time there. Look, Crosslinks, yes. Overall, they did hire a lot of apprentices, and I think in some cases on Crosslinks they went past the 10% that we laid out or we requested. It was a challenge though with a lot of the subcontractors in terms of having them being proactive and taking on apprentices from the local communities. Yes, there were challenges, but um, overall, when I think one of our meeting a few months ago, when we look at it, the numbers appears to be generally at the 10%, if my memory serves me right, or more. So I would give them a good mark if my memory serves me well, that they did reach it when you combine the folks who are working, the youths who are working for Crossings and the youths who are working for the contractors. If you total it, it appears to work itself out. And so they did the youths of the neighborhood did get some opportunity when it comes to hiring. Yes, we also, I see you want to talk about the racist, discriminatory behavior and the graffiti and the name calling. Yes, it's gonna happen. It did happen. They are folks who are archaic in their thinking or just obnoxious and mean and do hurtful things. It's gonna happen. It happens if you're working in the healthcare system, the school system, the law enforcement system. If you work in the towers, where whether it be passive aggressive in its appearance or just outright just nasty, it does happen. But it 2 years ago during the summer, it came out really bad. I'm not saying it doesn't happen now, but it's not in the media as much. Well, even with us as a union, we had our member. I remember specifically one of our members put a noose up, and then the same day when they discovered it, investigate. They found out that he was the person that did it. He was immediately fired, escorted off the site. The next day, he was at the union hall where he was removed from the union, and that's how we dealt with it. He was removed from the union, and as per the union's constitution. And then there've been others, whether it be at the Bayview site. There was another instances where that fellow went through the process of removing him through the union's constitution again. And also there's a hospital that's close by at in the Coxwell and Danford area. I can't remember the hospital off the top of my head, but there were nooses found there. Eventually, not the Carpenters, but another union, um, they found out that that member was responsible, and I guess they went through went through their process, and it was dealt with. So yes, the unions are proactive. Look, we're not perfect. We have our own issues as unions. Um, some folks, whether you're in the leadership of the union or you're the membership, yes, some folks still has that um, racist, horrible mentality. But overall, no, the union has good traits and leadership that's progressive and welcoming to everyone. right? I started out from an apprentice. Today, I'm the vice president. Today, I'm one of the most vocal person that if something happened that's racist and discriminatory, I would be the first one to speak out against it, right? So we're moving forward, and we're being proactive, and we're making a lot of steps to eliminate this, to stamp it out. It will take time. It will take probably a generation or two, but it's not just in construction. It's everywhere. You have this incidents like this raising its ugly head. So did that help, Carl?
Yeah, yeah, and I wanted to thank you for that example, because there here in Hamilton, I won't mention any unions. Here in Hamilton, there have been cases of racist incidents happen, hate incidents happen, other discriminatory incidents, and sometimes those unions are would say, well, we are here to protect our members, and then they do not take the necessary steps to, one, educate their members, and two, if they need to expel them from the union, take that process of accountability. So I think the fact that you are sharing with us today here, for Hamilton unions to hear that there has been precedent where, when you find out that certain members are engaging in discriminatory and racist acts, that do not represent the values of the union and making the working the workplace a safe environment, there has to be some form of repercussion. So just wanted to say thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I always one of the things that I always want to tell folks is, okay, you have recruiting where you've been running ads on the television, or on the radio. You've been doing it for decades, and you're not connecting with folks from certain neighborhood. I had to talk to my colleague and say, look, let's try something different, like with Ahmed. You for some reason, in your community culture, you recruit more people by going into the mosque, the churches, the store that people go on a Saturday or a Sunday to pick up their groceries. So if you really want to make a difference, go in there, get folks that they can identify with, and hand out flyers with examples of them on the flyer, with their tool belt, with their hard hat, beside their F-150 or their Dodge Ram, showing that, look, this can be you. And we did something similar to that one summer. We get a whole bunch of reps that could identify with that community, and within that summer, I think a month or a couple weeks, we had over 200 people coming in to TCBN, signing up in the union. Meanwhile, for years you've been running these ads on the TV, and you didn't have the same effect. So in other words, Carl, in the future, if you're not having certain success, send someone that they can identify in that neighborhood. I can talk to them, saying, look, and be straight. Yes, I acknowledge that, look, in the past, yes, the union was not welcoming, because you'll be only fooling yourself. And I found that out too when I was out there, because they shared that with me. If you think that people are not aware that some of the unions keep folks out, we know we you know I wasn't as exposed to it, but over time, the more I get out there in the community, the older folks, they have that conversation with me, and I take it to my office. And sometimes at first, my colleagues, or probably senior guys, will go, would put on the show as if they're naive to it, but then over time they admit, yeah, they are aware that there's a history. You know, a couple decades ago when folks were just not welcome. I won't call the names of the union, including my union, because I've written about this before, that yes, we have a history, but we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to say, this is what's happening now. Brothers, sisters, friend, look, come on. We're trying to be inclusive. We want to be inclusive, and this is us taking the steps to make that change, right? Acknowledge the past, but says, okay, fine, but let's see what we can do going forward, right? You know, that's how I look at things today as a union leader.
Yeah, thanks. So Carl, is it okay if we give Sarah the last word? I know Sarah has been having issues with the internet. So let's see if Sarah can respond and say some of the stuff that TCBN is doing, some good practices that they can share with the Hamilton CBN or anything else. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank God. So yes, so with TCBN, we are doing a number of activities and a number of programs that help apprentices during construction. With that, we have three programs. We have the Quick Start in Construction, which helps youth get the hands-on training before they get into construction. That's helpful. We do have also the newcomer pathways into construction. So for newcomers getting into the country, you're a refugee, you have a work permit, uh, you're given an opportunity to join the program to understand the industry that you're joining. And then we do have the Next Gen Builders Mentorship Program. So earlier, Chris talked about mentorship being a very good thing. So with the Next Gen Mentorship Program, we really focus on Black youth, women, indigenous people, like people, equity seeking groups. We give them the tools that they will need to use when they join the industry. So, like he's explained, there are a number of challenges that our youth face when they join the industry. Having a mentor for at least 1 year can help them get accustomed to some of these issues, but majorly how to handle these issues as they come up, right? So the mentor is there to support them, to help them handle these issues and ensure that they don't leave their jobs. So construction has a number of benefits. It's high paying. So we don't want them to get, after doing, like Ahmed has talked about, the things you need to do to get into construction. So once you get in there, we don't want you to leave because of a certain incident. We will give you that mentor to help you understand and navigate that. But besides that, TCBN is also doing a number of other programs, including the Building Diversity Awards, where we look at, the contractors, individuals, champions that are doing a lot in the communities to look at diversity, inclusion, and all these aspects to help equity-seeking groups enter into construction and stay there. We do also have the okay, sorry, I've forgotten the other program, but we do have a number of things that are happening at TCBN that are ensuring that people get jobs in construction and they stay on job. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, this is we're very grateful for all of you for joining us. Ahmed Abdi, Chris Campbell, Carpenters Local 27. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge and and your experience. And thank you, Sarah Gonza, from Toronto Community Benefits Network. You've given us a lot to think about. I think Carl has lots of work to do now. But the great thing is that HCCI, Hamilton Center for Civic Inclusion, is here to support the HCBN. There are other community organizations that are part of the Hamilton Community Benefits Network. I'm not going to list them all. I'm going to forget some. I know Acorn, Environment Hamilton. We're looking to expand the network. So if you are interested, if you're a church, if you're a mosque, if you're a business, if you're a neighborhood group that's watching this, a high school, whatever it might be, you can send an email to Carl. Carl, what's your email?
Carl Andrus at HCBN.
Okay, you can send an email to Carl, because again, we really want to ensure that Black youth have access to a career path that allows for them to be successful and thrive here in Hamilton, and racialized communities as well. Those numbers are increasing, whether it's in the lower city, whether it's up on the mountain, or even in the surrounding suburbs. So we really want to ensure that Black youth have access to these career paths. We'll be sharing this video with some of the students at the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board and the Catholic School Board as well, and so that we can connect them with unions, talk about apprenticeships, and have them build up our city in an inclusive way. So thank you very much for tuning in. I'll pass it over to Carl, who will close us off, and we are very grateful to our guests for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Kojo. Thank you for our guests taking the time to speak to us today. And anybody who's listening to this or watching the recording later, just you have to consider the Hamilton LRT is projected to employ about 6,000 person hours of work. So that's 1,000 people for 6 years that will be needed. And there is a huge shortage right now in the skilled trades industry. All those cranes you see across the city that are going up, those all have to be manned by people and crewed by women. So if you are interested in these careers, there's a lot of training opportunities that are starting. There are sessions right now with Tomorrow's Trade, sponsored by sponsored by the Ontario Building Trades Council, that would give you direct opportunity to try on a different set of trades to see if you're interested in. There's employment service organizations. We're trying to do some of the groundwork to get ready for these jobs so that we can make sure that that access is there. When we ask Metrolinx for that 10% target, that we can help them fill those with people who are interested in the trade. So feel free to follow our social media, to keep an eye on HCCI and HCBN's social accounts. You'll be hearing a lot more about this as it moves on. And it's important also to note that the Metrolinx didn't give these jobs away. It took a community struggle of folks that came here to talk about it to pry that 10% target from Metrolinx. It wasn't something that they just came to. It took a lot of grassroots organizing and a lot of pressure from TCBN and its allies to get that win that we hope to build on here in Hamilton. And thank you, everybody, for your time. Have a great evening.